Good evening, everyone. It's Water Wednesday. Thanks for joining tonight. I'm coming to you from a different location in my house. This is actually my dining room. That's my office, and you can sort of see me in my natural habitat. I usually use our house. We're fortunate enough to have an office with a door that closes, but my husband has been working in there, and so that's not available to me tonight. So I'm broadcasting from sort of the middle of our house. So really, if a child walks by, anything could happen. So I'm just crossing my fingers that I have a little bit of space and a little bit of peace tonight to do this broadcast. But that's okay. That's what life is all about these days with all of us home during the pandemic. Everybody just has to be a little bit gracious and a little bit understanding that we all have families and we all have lives. So thanks for joining. I'm Dr. Tiffany Boyd-Hodgson, and every Wednesday I do a broadcast that features water. I talk a lot about water. I talk about my candidacy for the Vallecitos Water Board, Division 5. That's a map of the district behind me. And we talk about the things that are going on the board. We talk about things that are going on in the campaign. I do take questions from the public at the end. Some questions I know the answer to, others I don't. And I then promise that I will get back to the person who asks the question. And I love it when I don't know the answer to the question, because it forces me to learn more and to do my homework and to do research. I'm a scientist by training, and that's also a brain behind me. It's a model brain that I have. And I'm a neuroscientist by training, and I'm naturally curious. And so I feel like that would be an asset to the Vallecitos Water Board. But when someone asks me a question that I don't know the answer to, I try to find out for them. So tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about what is in the water. And the format of these broadcasts, it's fairly typical. What I do is I give a brief introduction, and then I review some content, and then I take questions. So I'll start by just talking a little bit about myself and why I'm doing this. I've already mentioned sort of the overview of why I do this, but I am Dr. Tiffany Boyd-Hodgson. I'm running for Vallecitos Water Board. The election is in November. You'll be able to vote in person beginning Halloween, October 31st. That's new this year. It used to be the case that you could only vote in person on the day of election. But this year, because of COVID-19, the Registrar of Voters in San Diego County is opening in-person voting beginning October 31st through November 3rd. And I believe the polls close at 8 p.m. on November 3rd. Every registered voter in California will be getting a ballot mailed to them. Those are supposed to be mailed October the 5th, which means that depending on how long it takes for the mail to arrive, you'll probably have your ballot by October 8th. You can fill it out and mail it in. There will be more drop-off locations than there have been in the past. You can fill it out and drop it off if you would prefer not to mail it in. And then, as I just mentioned, the option is there for you to vote in person. So there are a lot of different ways to vote this year. And so I am running for Vallecitos Water Board, Division 5. I am number 1 on the ballot under that heading, which is a great position to be in. My ballot designation says scientist because I am a scientist. And my ballot statement, I submitted one, and you can read about me and what I hope to do on the board, but I'll tell you a little bit about it tonight. So I'm running for a water board for a couple of reasons. I first started becoming aware of and appreciate the impact of water in policy and how clean water impacts our daily lives when I lived in Pennsylvania. I lived near a naval base, and it's the Hardship Naval Base. I've had my dear friend, Senator Maria Collette, on this show before a few weeks ago, and we talked a lot about the Hardship Naval Base. So for decades, the Hardship Naval Base, they conducted firefighting exercises on that base, and they extinguished the fire with a fire retardant foam. The foam seeped into the ground and consequently seeped into the groundwater, and was then later the groundwater was determined to contain high levels of PFAS, which we're going to talk about a little bit more tonight. So my friend Senator Maria Collette ran for state senate, and part of her platform was to help clean up that mess. And she's doing a great job cleaning up that mess. But I helped her with that campaign. And, I was by no means an expert, but that's when I first started learning about the impact of our environment and clean water and chemicals in our water and how that can impact us. So when my family moved out here, I began learning about the water issues out here in California. They're different. They have different issues out here in California than they do in Pennsylvania. Water is plentiful in Pennsylvania. It's scarce and it's expensive out here. And our water is largely imported from other places, either from Northern California. We get 55% of our water from Northern California. It's imported. We get 27% from the ocean, from the desalination plant. And then we get another 18% from the Olivenhain Municipal District. So we have three sources primarily that we get our water from. So I started learning about that and looking into that. And then I came to understand that the water board is an elected position, which is a little bit different than it is elsewhere. And that's something that a lot of voters don't know. So a lot of people know that Vallecitos is where they cut their checks, where they pay online. But the Vallecitos Water Board comprises 5 districts, which I talk about every week, and I'll talk about again in just a minute. And each of those districts is governed by a board member, and that board member is elected by the public. A lot of voters don't know that. I have said that so many times as I've been talking to voters. They just don't know that piece of information. So that's one thing that I want you to take away, is that you have a choice in who governs your water, and it impacts your daily life. That's also something I want you to take away from any time we have an interaction, whether it's here, whether it's face-to-face at one of the street and greets that I'm doing, or whether I happen to catch you in a neighborhood when I'm out distributing literature. You have a choice. You have a choice of who sits on your water board, and that person has a say in your water rates. Our rates just went up in February, and the board voted for our rates to go up in February. So I'm running for water board for a few reasons. Number one, currently members on the board have taken a lot of money in campaign contributions from developers. That has guided their decisions and their voting. Developers have been given sweetheart deals that have contributed to the campaigns of the folks on the water board. And I don't think that that's a good way to be a public servant. I don't think that that's accountable. I don't think it's transparent. And I'm angry about that. As it turns out, about 15% of our water bill is subsidizing development, and it shouldn't be that way. The Vallecitos Water Board has 2 sources of income. Number one, the ratepayers, what we pay, you and me. Number 2, the developer fund, which is what developers are supposed to pay to cover development costs. Here in San Marcos, it's one of the few places that you can still develop far and wide. We still have some space, and we're growing quickly. Developers are supposed to cover their costs to put in sewer lines and to put in water lines. But because of the decisions by the board and the votes by the board, those fees have been reduced, delayed, and waived. So the money has to come from somewhere. If it doesn't come from the developers to cover their costs, then it comes from us, the ratepayers. And that's a problem for me. I'm angry about that. So number 2, I mentioned that I'm a scientist at the top. I am a scientist, and I feel like the board could benefit from having someone that makes decisions based on evidence, not special interests. Someone who asks hard questions. Someone who will, if I don't understand something, I'm curious, and I'll ask for more information, and I'll be able to have the capacity and the persistence to understand it. We're talking about water. Water is our most important resource, second to air. And so, having someone who can understand the science behind where we get our water, how we filter it, what chemicals are in our water, that's important, because that's how we can keep our water safe and reliable. Thirdly, one of my children is coming. So thirdly, it's important for me to have water available that is safe and reliable, as I mentioned, but also affordable. And I mentioned that our rates went up in February, and As it turns out, 1 in 5 San Diegans right now, their water bill exceeds 4% of their income. 4% is considered the threshold for unaffordability. If you are a low income person, then 62% of those people, their water bill exceeds 12%. So that's 3 times the unaffordability threshold. And that impacts low income people the hardest, right? That's 62% of those folks are having an enormously expensive water bill. So figuring out a way to diversify our sources so that we are not beholden to only a single source or only what San Diego charges us is something that is very interesting to me. I also have a plan, and I've been trying to partner with other folks running for other offices like school board, like Palomar College, to develop a pipeline, a training pipeline, so that folks who may not be interested in going to four-year college, or maybe someone who's more interested in doing a trade, they can learn to be a water operator. And that starts in high school. They can learn the trade, they can go through the apprentice program, and then they can get a job at Vallecitos. So I have ideas that are bigger than water that can stimulate our local economy. There are ambitious plans and there are long-term plans, but I'm talking about those plans too, because I want you to know that I have a vision for how we can make our whole community better and bring our whole community together around water, saving water, preserving water, protecting water, but also preserving our community, because I think that's very, very important to me. So those are some of the things that I am hoping to accomplish on the Vallecitos Water Board. I don't hear anybody else talking about those things. So I hope to convince you tonight that I'm knowledgeable and that I would be a good candidate, but I also hope to educate you about the water board. So the way that these broadcasts work is they typically run about 45 minutes. And I like to keep them under an hour because a lot of us work and we're on Zoom calls all day. And this is, the last thing we need is to sort of sit through yet another call. So I'm going to show a quick presentation, and then I will take questions. If there are no questions, that's fine. If there are questions, I will try to answer them. So let me just share my screen. Really quickly, before I do that, so our campaign is starting to walk precincts. That's why I'm a little bit casual tonight, because I've been wearing my t-shirt. You can see it. See, there's my t-shirt. I've been wearing my t-shirt around neighborhoods because I am walking precincts and doing in-person events that are socially distant, but still gather together small groups of people and talking to voters. So I have t-shirts that are available. If you would like a t-shirt, you can get one, you can buy one, or you can walk a couple of precincts for me and you can wear your t-shirt while you're doing it. And I'm happy to explain what that looks like to anybody who wants to do that. I also have car magnets, which are like little traveling billboards. And I've been giving those out to people that attend one of these street and greets that I'm calling them, or if you make a donation to my campaign. So we have a couple of sort of swag items now that I will happily give away in exchange for payment or a little bit of volunteering for the campaign, because I need volunteers. It's a grassroots shoestring campaign. Okay, so let me share my screen. Just give me one moment. This is always a little bit clunky. Just give me one moment. And just bear in mind that when I'm sharing, I cannot see any comments that are coming in. But after I stop sharing, I will be able to see them. So, okay, let's see. So tonight, the inspiration tonight for tonight's broadcast was as I'm talking to more voters, the question that I'm asked over and over again is our water safe? Or is X chemical in our water? And I don't always know the answer off the top of my head, but I'm going to talk to you about a couple of chemicals that are coming up frequently as I'm talking to people tonight. This is part 2 because I already reviewed some of this information a few weeks ago, but as I also try to explain in every one of these broadcasts are designed to stand alone, but you can also binge them. You can watch them in sequence. They live on my website, they live on my YouTube channel, and you can access them through my Facebook page. So I know it's sort of, I know that no one's going to binge them, but it's kind of a fun thought to think about. Okay, so First, a few weeks ago, I showed a TED Talk by a woman named Kelsey T. Leonard, and it was a very inspiring talk, and it has stayed with me. And so since I showed that, she is a member of the Shinnecock Nation, I should mention that, and what the takeaway from her talk was she wanted people to think differently about water, and thinking differently about water requires us to think differently about the land that we are on and the people that came before us. So since that time, I have started each of these broadcasts with a land acknowledgement. And I try to do this with intention, and I do it to sort of bring us all in, remind us all where we are and the debts that we owe to the land and the people. So I will read this land acknowledgement now. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory and homelands of the Luiseno Payam people. Cal State University San Marcos, which is near where I live, and surrounding areas are still home to the 6 federally recognized bands of the La Jolla, Pala, Pauma, Pachanga, Rincon, Saboba, Luiseno, and Payam people. It is also important to acknowledge that this land remains the shared space among the Kumpangawisham and Kupeño and Kumeyaay and Ipe peoples. We acknowledge that we are guests on traditional, unceded Luiseno and Payam land. So before I move into the content, I'd like to share with you that I received an endorsement last week since I last did this broadcast that I'm really proud of. I've talked to you about how I'm endorsed by the Sierra Club, and the Sierra Club endorsement I'm also really proud of too. This was the first endorsement of a water board candidate by their North Area PAC. So I'm really proud of that. Secondly, I've mentioned a few times that I'm a scientist. There is an organization called 314 Action, and they endorse scientists that are running for office. And they try to ensure that you have resources and tools because they want more people who think critically and who think like scientists in office. The new endorsement that I'd like to share with you tonight that I'm really, really proud of is the plumbers and steam fitters and the HVAC folks at the Local 230. So this is the United Association of Plumbers, Steam Fitters, and HVAC, Local 230. And as I was learning about them and I was going through the interview process, I learned something that was just so amazing to me. So I've talked about how the Vallecitos Water District was founded in 1955. And as I was talking to the folks at the UA 230, they said, we used to import our water on the backs of donkeys. Okay. And, I've seen that in the movies, right? So they said, our organization has been around for over 100 years, and we built most of the districts in Southern California, in San Diego County. And I thought, what a proud heritage of this union. We've just come through Labor Day, where we talk a lot about unions. We talk about what they've given us: weekends, child labor laws, the EEOC, OSHA, an 8-hour workday. I think I already mentioned weekends. So a lot of the things that we enjoy, whether we are in a union or not, whether we work in the private or a government sector, has been brought by the blood, sweat, and tears of unions. So to hear about that proud heritage, especially at Vallecitos, and then be endorsed by this group was really moving to me. I've been talking since April about trying to form a pathway and a partnership with educational organizations to help there be a way for young adults to pursue the trades so that they can get good jobs, good local jobs, so that people who grew up here, if they want to raise their own families here, they can do that. So I've been talking about this since April. And so to be able to share that vision with the UA 230 and then receive their endorsement, it was really moving to me. So I'm very grateful and proud of that endorsement. Okay, let's keep moving. For some reason there we go. Okay, so I've already talked a little bit about these, but these sort of pillars of why I'm running. Number one, affordable, quality, reliable water for you and for me. not just now, but for generations to come. What we do now, the decisions we make now about our water, how we zig and zag with the challenges of climate change, where we get our water, the effects on the environment, how clean it is, how we test it, that not only impacts us right now that are drinking it now, but our children and our grandchildren. So I've got that long-term vision in mind. And right now, affordable, quality, reliable water for you and for the next generation. No developer subsidies, no developer money. As I mentioned, I'm running a grassroots shoestring campaign. I'm not taking any developer money. I don't believe that we should be subsidizing developers with the rates that we pay with our water. Again, partnering with schools and the trades for water operator training to provide good local jobs. That's an idea that's bigger than the water board. It involves partnering with other agencies, and it stimulates our economy, and we all really need that. Every economy needs to be stimulated right now. And then finally, science, not special interests when making decisions. I've mentioned several times, I'm a scientist. I think like a scientist. I'm naturally curious. I ask questions. I know how to look at data. I know how to interpret data. That's what you will, these are the things you will get with me with a vote if you put me on the Vallecitos Water Board. So just to level set, I show this slide every single time I do one of these because I know that some folks haven't seen it. So this is Division 5. This is where Division 5 is in the district. And I've drawn kind of a highlighted area around it. It's the darkish green right here. As the mother of 2 children who are red-green colorblind, this chart is a horrible choice of sort of gradations of red and brown and green, but that's why I highlighted it out here. So just some landmarks. Here's 78. The I-15 is over here. Cal State San Marcos right here. Twin Oaks Valley Road. Double Peak Park. Lake San Marcos is here. You can sort of see it right there. And the border is just on the other side of the lake. San Marcos High School is right here. It is in the division. Carlsbad is off this way. Escondido is off that way. So I'm running for Division 5. And if you're in Division 5, you'll see me on the ballot. If you're not in Division 5, you won't see me on the ballot. You'll have potentially a different person on your ballot, or you may not have the opportunity to elect anyone to the Vallecitos Water Board right now because Divisions 2 and 3 are not up for election. Only Divisions 1, 5, and 4 are. So as I mentioned, we get our water from a few different sources, and ensuring that we can diversify the water sources so that we can manage any challenges that come with climate change and also manage the cost is something that I'm really interested in. But I've shown this slide several times, and I'll just point out a couple of things. You know, the Vallecitos Water Board has 2 jobs: to import water and produce it for the customers and send it out to the customers, and then remove the waste. So sending the water that is sent out to the customers is in green, the wastewater is in blue. We get our water from the Sacramento San Joaquin Delta, the Colorado River. It makes a pit stop at the Lake Skinner facility in Riverside County. Then the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and San Diego Water Authority, they import it further to us. They have been raising their rates a lot in the last few years, and that's an issue that needs to be addressed. We also get about 27% of our water from the Carlsbad desalination plant and about 18% from the Livenhain Municipal Water District. I'm showing you this tonight because, and I want you to focus on this, 18% of our water, because I'm going to show you some charts a little bit later that are a little bit troubling to me. I don't have any reason to suspect that they should or should not be, whether they're good or bad. It's just an unanswered question that I want to know the answer to, and I think that someone should be asking this question. Again, wastewater out. We have the Encino Wastewater Authority and the Meadowlark Reclamation Facility that recycles about 74% of the water that it receives. Vallecitos tap water comes from these places, as I've just described: the Livenhain Municipal Water District, the City of Oceanside's filtration plant, and then the San Diego Water Authority through the Twin Oaks Valley Water Treatment Plant, the desalination plant, and the Robert A. Skinner filtration plant at Lake Skinner, California. So this is where the water comes from that we drink. So moving into the chemicals that I'm going to talk specifically about. These are the ones that I get asked the most about. The first is PFAS. I spoke a little bit about PFAS at the top of the broadcast. Just as a reminder, though, PFAS is called, it's often called a forever chemical because it doesn't break down easily in water or in our bodies. PFAS, we can get it from several places. Teflon pans, for example, or styrofoam takeout containers. There are a lot of different PFASs, but there are two that have been sort of studied and regulated. So there are over 5,000. But the EPA has a non-binding advisory recommendation of 70 parts per trillion for PFOS, which is up here, and PFOA, which is up here. A lot of room for improvement there. So I get asked, is there PFAS in the Vallecitos water? PFAS typically impacts groundwater because it's usually from a contaminant that seeps into the soil and into the groundwater. Not many people drink from wells here. More rural communities do, and that's the way it was in Pennsylvania too. But PFAS, this is from the Vallecitos website. This is what they say. Vallecitos water is safe from PFAS. It gives a little bit of background about where they come from: nonstick cookware, firefighting foams, as I mentioned, was the case at the Horsham Naval Base, fast food packaging, pesticides, because they're extremely heat resistant. Two of the most well-known chemicals that I've already talked about, PFOS and PFOA, they've been phased out, but again, they're called forever chemicals for a reason. They don't break down easily, and they can linger in your body, and they can linger in your environment. So there is a concern about whether PFAS is in the drinking water here. I've been asked that question several times. Vallecitos says no. I don't have any reason to disbelieve what Vallecitos says about this. This is from their website. It looks like they are testing. They test according to the EPA, and none have been found in the drinking water. It says at the bottom that what I just mentioned, PFAS are predominantly found in groundwater sources, which Vallecitos does not use for its drinking water supply. So that means that Vallecitos does not take water from groundwater and then make it available as drinking water for us. Vallecitos, I don't believe that there is a report about Vallecitos going out and testing well water on people's property. However, I don't think that that is available to the public. I could be wrong about that, so I'm going to check on that. Something else that I was just asked about today. So someone asked me about perchlorate, and I'm still learning about this. I was just asked about it today, but I thought, well, do a little digging and see what I can come up with. And so I did a search on the website, and the Vallecitos website is really good, by the way. It's something that that contains a lot of information. They have a lot of programming that is really quite good. So I did a little bit of digging. I could only find a couple of mentions of perchlorate. This is an excerpt from the agenda, or some minutes from a meeting held back in June 21st, 2017. It says, a motion was made by Director Evans, seconded by Director Hernandez, and carried unanimously to adopt the agenda by the regular board meeting of June 21st, 2017. I'm only including that so that you can see this is where this information came from. So during public comment, a gentleman named Mike Hunsaker, a member of the public, addressed the board regarding the district's water quality report, which is published annually, and you can get it from the Vallecitos website. And I will show you parts of it a little bit later of the most recent one. Mr. Hunsaker was inquiring about allowable limits of perchlorate, why it wasn't included in the report, and if the protocol for testing and timing of tests is specified in the report. And then he thanked the board. Director Elitharp encouraged Mr. Hunsaker to meet with staff to address his questions. So what I find a little bit disturbing about this is that Mr. Hunsaker went to the trouble to make this comment and ask this question. And the question wasn't answered in a way that the public can find out about it. Because if Mr. Hunsaker met with staff, then that information was contained within that meeting, and staff isn't required to publish its meeting contents in the form of minutes like the board meeting is. So this question, the amount of perchlorate in the water, has been broached at a board meeting, but unfortunately we don't know the answer to that. What I did find also on the Vallecitos website, this is dated information. It's from 2010. You can see under here. This is a publication that was on the website. These are the only two mentions of perchlorate that I could sort of ascertain information about from the website. It says what perchlorate is, which is useful to know. Perchlorate is used as the main component in solid rocket propellant, and it can also be found in some types of munitions and fireworks. Perchlorate and other perchlorate salts are readily soluble in water, dissociating into the perchlorate ion, which does not readily interact with the soil matrix or degrade in the environment. The primary human health concern related to perchlorate is its effects on the thyroid. Perchlorate has been detected at low levels at the Municipal Water District Colorado River Aqueduct water supply. So it has been detected in local water sources. Because of the growing concerns over perchlorate levels in drinking water, the MWD adopted a perchlorate action plan in 2002. As of December 2004, the amount of perchlorate entering the Colorado River system has been reduced from approximately 1,000 pounds per day to less than 90 pounds per day. So again, this information is dated. It's from 2010. It looks like that perchlorate was detected and there was some actionable things that happened to try to reduce it, and there was progress made to reduce it. I couldn't find any more updated information than this, so I'm not sure where we stand. It looks like a tremendous amount of progress was made, 1,000 pounds per day to less than 90 pounds per day between the years of 2002 and 2004. So it looks like they moved quickly to try to reduce the levels. But as far as whether or not perchlorate is still in the water, I don't know the answer to that. It's not listed in the report, which I will show you in just a moment. So the Vallecitos Water District does an analysis every year of what's in the water. And I have talked a little bit about this before. There are a lot of chemicals that are listed on the left-hand side. There are a lot of acronyms. I have explained what some of these are over here. I'm not going to go into that very deeply tonight because frankly, I still need to study it a little bit. I still need to understand what these are. I mean, some of them are obvious. I know what arsenic is. I know what E. coli is, but understanding what some of these are and the implications, I'm just not quite prepared enough to talk about that. But what I do want you to look at here, there are some takeaways. So the range average, it looks like everything is within average range, and I find some comfort in that. There's obviously some set continuum of amount that has been determined to be safe. And of everything on this page that has been tested, it falls within the average range. So that doesn't necessarily mean that it is safe if it's sort of a binary little or no means that it's safe or not safe. It means that we have the average amount of whatever these chemicals are as the districts around us. It could mean that all of the districts around us have too much, though, which I think is something to bear in mind. What I do want to draw your attention to here and on the next couple of slides is that, remember how I said we get 18% of our water from the Eleven-Hain treatment plant. So the Eleven-Hain treatment plant, for whatever reason, I don't know the answer, they don't seem to have readings on a lot of these chemicals. And where it says ND means it's not detected. So that's good. That means they did test for this. Total coliform bacteria, not detected. E. coli, not detected. But then there are some chemicals here that are not reported. And I don't know why that is. I think that's a question that needs to be asked. I don't have any reason to suspect that it's too high or it's unsafe, but these are things that should be answered, and somebody should be asking that question. I don't hear any board members talking about that. I don't hear them asking this question. So I think that that's an oversight that needs to be addressed. This is another page from the water quality analysis. What I'd like to draw your attention to, I talked about perchlorate. Perchlorate is not the same as chlorate. It's not the same thing as chloride. But someone else asked me, do they treat their water with chlorine? So it looks like, yes, they do. Actually, I'm going to go. This is what I meant to show you. A byproduct of drinking water chlorination industrial processes. So yes, it looks like that is the case because we have a byproduct of that treatment. But again, here, especially with these chemicals, which may or may not be dangerous. I'm looking at these right now. They don't look, they're certainly not arsenic. There's a lot of not reported. So again, I think that this is a question that needs to be asked and answered. They also test for things like hardness. There's another place, maybe a couple of slides back, about odor. So they do sort of quality of life testing as well, which I think is really good. But this is available to the public. You can get this from the website. And I will happily engage you in a thorough discussion one-on-one if you get this and you want to talk about specific chemicals, because it'll prompt me to do some more research too. So that's what I wanted to show you today. And I have had specific questions about what's in the water, and even as recently as today. So I just threw that slide deck together. I'm going to be getting back to those specific people that asked me about those questions, and try to have a dialogue with them about, because obviously they have some concerns. So at this point in the presentation, I usually, ever since I showed that TED Talk by Kelsey T. Leonard, remember she's the woman from the Shinnecock Nation, she challenged everybody listening to her talk to think about, what have I done for the water today? So to me, that could be something small or it could be something big. For me, a big thing is I'm trying to get myself elected to the water board because I believe in climate change and I know that we need to prepare for it. Number two, I'm not taking developer money and I'm not going to be beholden to special interests. And I feel like that's the best way, along with evidence, to make decisions that impact all of us when we're talking about such a precious resource. But what did I also do? I also turned off the water when I was doing my dishes. I sort of gave like a little swirl and that was it. I didn't like run the water the whole time I was doing the dishes. I also, because I have 4 children, and they vary in age range and they vary in ability and practice for brushing their teeth, that, I remind them, don't run the water while you're brushing your teeth. So there are a lot of things you could do for the water. There are a lot of things that you could do so that you can answer the question, what have I done for the water today? You can say, I did this little thing, or I did this big thing. Ms. Leonard also challenged us to reestablish our connection with water. And I think that is something that comes from inside of us, to fully appreciate water, to talk about it in a different way, to protect it and express concern for it and care for it as we would a family member or a pet or something that we hold precious and that we love. So my challenge to you, as it is every week, is to think about water differently, reestablish your connection with water. Water is life. I mentioned it's second only to air. It's our most precious resource. And where we live, it is a finite source. It is expensive. And if we don't have the right people on water boards all over California, if we don't have people that have values of protecting the water, then we are going to face crises later on down the road. And so I want to head that off now. Okay, let's see. Something else that has been talked about a few weeks ago at the Vallecitos Water Board meeting is that if you are suffering some kind of financial hardship because of COVID-19 and you're struggling to pay your water bill, you can call them and you can talk to them about that. The staff that was mentioning this program seemed very willing to talk with people. You'll need to provide documentation that you're having that the hardship is caused by COVID-19. Perhaps you lost your job, or it's just your work isn't as regular as it should be, or as it had been before. Call them. Here's the number, 760-744-0460. Ask to speak with customer service. Ask them about their special case. Be kind. The person on the other end that is taking your call does not determine whether or not you get the financial assistance. Be kind to that person. They're trying to do their job too, and they're taking a lot of calls right now. So this is an option for you if you are struggling. Finally, it's after Labor Day, which means it's, quote, the campaign season, which is a little bit hilarious because I've been running this race since April. A lot of people that I know who are in tough races have been running races since a long time ago, even through the primary. There wasn't a primary in this race, but some people I know have been running for like 2 years, 3 years. So, but traditionally after Labor Day is when people start thinking about the election more and more. So we are ramping up our campaign efforts. We are walking precincts. We are phone banking. We are texting. We are doing lit drops. We are having street and greets, which we've got maybe 7 or 8 planned, and we've already had several. So I would love to talk with you more if you're interested in getting involved in this campaign. Also, you can go to my website. You can see what I've been up to all along the campaign trail. You can also donate to my campaign if you would like. $5, $10, it all adds up and it all helps. You can do that by going to bit.ly/TIF4VWB. That's my cat. My cat is joining us on the broadcast. Okay, I will stop sharing my screen. Let me see if any questions came in. And again, I try to keep these a little bit shorter, and just because I feel like we've all been on Zoom calls for so many months. But we have a couple that have come in. We have perchlorate in some of our groundwater here in Santa Clarita as well, in an area used for the manufacturing and testing of munitions in the 50s. So as I mentioned, that's one of the sources of perchlorate. They've installed special treatment equipment in that area, and the treated water is discharged into the riverbed for recharge. That's really interesting. I'm gonna look into that because I think that's an interesting solution. And in thinking about, we had Dr. Kathleen Treseder on a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about how there are natural ways to filter things that seep through in the groundwater using fungi. And then you can actually smelt that. You can recycle metals because these fungi collect the metals, which I think is just so incredibly cool. So thinking about ways that we can try to filter out and then recycle or repurpose some of these contaminants, I think is such a great idea. So I'm going to follow up on that. And let's see, someone is asking if they missed the presentation, and I think that I was sharing my screen properly. I didn't do it any differently than I have in the past. So if for some reason I didn't do it in the technological way that was appropriate, I'd like to know that, because then I can either do an abbreviated version, or I can send you the presentation or something like that. So I apologize if I didn't do something correctly. I'm sort of discombobulated because I'm in a different space, and I might have done something different. So I apologize about that if I did. Thank you all for joining me. And if you would like to write postcards for me, if you would like to walk a precinct, if you would like a t-shirt, again, I'll show you my t-shirt. Here it is. It's kind of cool. It says my name on it. It says that I'm running for water board. The district is behind me. You can see the shape. I also showed it in a slide. We are ramping up, and we are determined to win this race. I have a lot of good ideas that I have shared with you. I am approachable. I love talking with people. I love hearing your concerns and answering your questions. And I love researching the answer to your questions if I don't know the answer. So contact me. You can contact me. I do these presentations every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Then they live on my website and on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page. You can also contact me directly through the website. I have a phone number, an email address, and you can actually just click a button and contact me, and I get those emails. I've received a lot of emails that way. I send out a newsletter where I update people on how the campaign's going, anything that's interesting or scientific that people might want to be interested in. I don't ask you for money every single time, but I do ask for money. So because I'm running for office, and running for office turns out to be more expensive than it should be. So I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your questions. And I will see you next Wednesday. Next weekend, or next Wednesday, I will have a guest, and we're going to talk about fracking. So I'm really excited about that. He's an expert in environmental policy. So we're going to have him on, and I hope you'll join me for that Water Wednesday. In the meantime, I have several street and greets coming up. So maybe I will see you at one of those. And or maybe I will see you in your neighborhood, because I will be dropping lit. So I will see you very soon. Thank you. Good night. Be safe. Be safe from the fires. If you are in harm's way, please evacuate. Don't wait to be asked. And take your family, take your pets, take pet food, and don't forget about your pets if you're evacuating. Okay, we will see you next week.